The Merchant Shipping Investigation of Marine Casualties Amendment Bill 2019. I am delighted to have been given this opportunity to move the second stage of the Merchant Shipping Investigation of Marine Casualties Amendment Bill 2019. And could I say, Kate Dolcius, bottom of weakest, Tara, I want to thank you, Minister, for your courtesy and for, I believe the government are not opposing this bill today, but when Anne-Marie O'Brien, who's in the gallery with her dad, did start raising issues about this right after the horrible accident happened, or terrible tragedy happened 10 years ago now, almost next May, you did go down to meet her in her home with me in Tipperary, and you did receive her in a deputation here in Dublin and listened and was very helpful and courteous to her, and I want me to say that as well. And I want to say hello to the many people at home. Young Anna at home was only 10, and Marie's daughter watching this, and remember her late uncle, and indeed the Esmond family and family members. It's a very traumatic case and a 10-year fight for justice. And this is a very, very important milestone on that road, and a very, very important piece of legislation. I want to thank the deputies that are here, Deputy Cahill, who is my constituency colleague, and indeed the other deputies that are here, and on Anne-Marie's behalf to thank the deputies as well for engaging with her, Deputy Ferris especially, and Deputy Cahill, and others that did. Two of them are gone now, Mick, Deputy Wallace and Deputy Daly were very helpful in their office. And to thank David in my own office, and indeed anyone that helped us. And just to mention this evening, because many people are gone home because they have to because of Hurricane Lorenza, and to wish everybody that's a seafarer this evening, or at sea, or on a ferry or whatever, safety, and safety to get home. And there are many, many songs, and Clancy Brothers and many more who bring them home safely and all that. So it's a rough evening for people that have to be at sea and have to be on the waters or on the roads either. But just important, it's rather poignant that this happens this evening. Unlike the day this terrible tragedy unfolded, it was a beautiful, beautiful early spring, late spring, early summer day, and the waters were as still as the water in St. Clean Shin, still as the water in that class. The aim of the bill, as we know, the Marine Casualties Amendment Bill 2019, is to revise the requirements for composition of the Marine Casualty Investigation Board and to provide for related matters. When the bill was introduced, I made it clear that while the bill itself is short and technical, it is of considerable emotional importance to the O'Brien and Esmond families. Huge importance, hugely emotional, and several more family members as well that were left. And I want to salute once again the courage and determination of Miss Anne-Marie O'Brien, and indeed in pushing for the introduction of this bill. It's not for selfish reason. It's very selfless. She knows that her brother will never come back to her, or indeed Esmond, but she also is concerned for future accidents, or future incidents, and for future loved ones. And you think of the three young girls that her brother left, Shannon, Sophie and Samantha, and indeed Pat Esmond's daughter, Shannon also. Young children. Incidentally, by a small quirk of fate, they both lived either side of me, one 3 miles, the other one 2.5 miles. The families, I didn't even know them, but they were living there. And they were left without never again seeing their father. So I want to salute her for the work she has done in that area, and it's totally selfless, as I said, and it could be, you know, and it's for other people's benefit. So as I said, what this bill seeks is to remedy those circumstances whereby there is no legal obligation whatsoever on the Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, or his agents to ensure that members of the Marine Casualty Investigation Board have maritime or marine accident experience. I'm not aiming this at you, Minister, because I believe you have been engaging and interested in changing it. It's the Minister of the day, who he or she may be. If this bill is accepted and passed, it will strengthen the onus on the Minister and his agents to ensure that qualified and suitable candidates are selected or elected for the membership of the board would have maritime experience, and that should be a prerequisite. You'd think we wouldn't have to look for this in legislation, but that should be a prerequisite. It has to be. It is a fair and reasonable requirement, given the gravity of the cases that may need to be investigated. We also know that the European Commission Minister has referred Ireland to the EU Court of Justice for failing to uphold EU law on, inverted commas, impartial investigations of marine incidents. And there are many, going back Dáil Éireann 40 years ago, Whiddy Island disaster. And reporting on the issue recently, Lorna Higgins in the Irish Times noted that, and I quote, "The EU says that it has, and inverted commas again, a number of concerns about the independence of members of the Marine Casualty Investigation Board, MCIB, the state's lead investigating body for serious incidents at sea." The report went on to say that the presence of the Department of Transport Secretary-General, our nominee, and the Marine Survey Office's Chief Surveyor on the 5-person board could represent a conflict of interest. We don't have any personal gripe with those persons in their professional capacity, but you know where we're coming from, what we need here, and this is what the European Commission are saying. They also say that the board lacks necessary independence from the Department of Transport and the Marine Survey Office, MSO. I have to highlight yet again that this stands in stark contrast to the equivalent board in the United Kingdom, where marine casualty investigation experience is a definite prerequisite and a requirement. And at this stage, I want to salute Captain Neil Ford, now retired, but he's a contract investigator now, who lost his own dad in the Whiddy Island disaster 40 years ago, and they're still waiting for answers. And to thank him and for all his help with us in this investigation, and he's been a mine of information for us, and to thank him in that. And I also want to thank, as I said, we must have a similar situation in this jurisdiction. That is, that we have a prerequisite to have marine casualty investigation experience and maritime experience. We must have a similar situation in this jurisdiction in order to protect the integrity of the process and ensure that no stone is left unturned for the loved ones left behind in cases involving marine accidents and fatalities. And a number of families have contacted us, and Marie and ourselves, and I salute the Barry family from Kappa White, who are actually neighbours. And the father and son have since died. They were at sea that day again, and they almost got upended by the wave of this vessel that torpedoed the other boat, the boat that the O'Briens and Esmonds were in. And they came forward as witnesses. And 2 have since gone to their eternal reward. And they were never engaged with properly by the Garda Síochána, or not to mention the Marine Casualty Investigation Board. On a broader note, I hope that the bill will also act as a timely reminder that boards of these kind need to avoid being filled with people who may be good and decent people, and I have no truck with them, but who are essentially ministerial appointees in the worst sense of that word, and that is that they don't have the experience. We especially need to avoid that when we are dealing with areas like marine casualty investigation and the most sensitive of related issues. The death of a loved one in such circumstances, how more tragic and traumatic can it be? We have standards that should apply here, and sensitivity has to be one, and then you'd expect the high standards of engagement, and people you would take for granted that they'd be the highest qualified people with relevant experience. For example, the Public Appointment Services, PAS is called now, which acts as the centralised provider of recruitment, assessment and selection services, also aims to provide an open, efficient and effective gateway and process to identify top quality people for consideration by ministers for appointments to state boards. For the PAS, there are a number of typical competencies that they may be deemed relevant to the position on a state board. And that goes across the whole broad spectrum. And these include an individual having an analytical strategic perspective, that an ability to critically analyse information, to identify the most relevant and critical issues with respect to the Marine Casualty Investigation Board. How is this competency to be met if the Minister is able to appoint people with no relevant maritime investigation experience? So, Minister, I hope and plead with you that you take these matters into your mind, and the Cabinet and the Government, because a lot has been made of this Public Appointments Commission in recent years. It used to be there heretofore, and a lot has been made of being independent appointees. And I involved myself when I was in the Communications and Fisheries portfolio of Communications Committee in the previous government under Raymond Ryan, Minister Raymond Ryan at the time. I was tasked with the job of interviewing for inland fisheries inspectors. And the independents had to be there. We had a choice to appoint 3. We put the best people with the best qualifications, like anybody that goes for an interview. Any of us. We're going for a big interview very soon, Deputy Cahan and myself, and Deputy Brown and yourself, Deputy, and the Chair here, and Deputy Ferris. The people are going to interviews, and they're the people, and rightly so. We have to passed their medicine, they gave us the Rain inside in the ballot box, or they gave us a number 11 to put two ones beside it, and you're in big trouble. So we're going to have to put our best foot forward and be our best behaviour, and rightly so. That's democracy in work. But then the democratic systems that are set up since the foundation of this state have failed us in so many ways. Failed us. So we need to make change here, and I'm appealing to you, Minister, your department officials are here, to grasp this piece of legislation on Bill Shin and to try and bring it into committee and deal with it whatever way possible, for the safety and for the humanity and for the dignity of any more lives that might be lost, or accidents or whatever, that the families and the loved ones will know accidents do happen. We can't avoid accidents, but there's a proper investigation, a meaningful investigation. So it's very important. So sorry, I was wrong here in the name I gave you. Michael Kingston is a solicitor, a maritime solicitor who lost his dad, Tim, 40 years ago in the Whiddy, and he has been invaluable to us, to Anne-Marie and the Esmond family, but Anne-Marie, and he's advised governments all over the world, all over Europe and elsewhere. But for some reason the department here won't engage with him at all. So what is wrong? A prophet is never recognised in his own village. I mean, we have people who are willing and able to have expertise and want to help. And in the spirit of the Irish Mail, that they want to help and they want to be good citizens and be able to give support and solace to Anne-Marie and her family, and dad and mum and siblings, and a little Annie at home, as I said. And Minister, I want to thank you again that you did come down and visit, and you empathised and sympathised and met them here again. So now is the time for action. And I'm delighted with the support I'm expecting to get to see, and it's all positive, because I think people realise that there's no ulterior motives with this piece of legislation. It's trying to make a bad situation good. Try and get the right people on the board of investigation, that they will be able to go to the site, will have all the experience. There was fine send me up to the Bog of Allen investigating an incident in the bog. It's like being lost in a bog or lost in a fog. I wouldn't have a clue. So we need to have people. And as far as water is concerned, I almost got drowned when I was a boy. I'm nervous in the bat now, so I wouldn't even stand near the river, not to mind to investigate something. So we need people that have the qualified experience and have proven that will be able to give their expertise, and that the public in future, and indeed in this case, hopefully a reopening investigation, will be able to have proper investigations, and we can sleep in our beds knowing that, and Anne-Marie can sleep in her bed, hopefully, when this legislation is enacted, and to think that that's one good thing done for future accidents. And as far as the Gardaí corner, which we're not dealing with here today, there was absolutely no investigation by Dungarvan and Gardaí in this. Unbelievable cover-up. Total cover-up. This ship was upended, it was a hit and run, and if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it is a duck. And then there was eyewitnesses, whale watchers on the pier of Helbig, and could see what happened and told them. And I've never in my life, when I wrote to the coroner a couple of times, I've never in my 12 years in this house, and else get a phone call from the coroner to back off from this and keep away from it, because those boys had copious amounts of alcohol drink, but they hadn't. The autopsy proved that they had maybe 2-3 cans at most. So there's a cover-up of enormous proportions. And it's not the only cover-up in Dungarvan Garda Station. But we're not dealing with that in this piece of legislation, and we'll deal with that elsewhere. We're meeting with the Assistant Commissioner Finn at the moment and waiting for him for another. But all these investigations are going over. But here we can make meaningful change with this piece of legislation. And Deputy Ferris, I see him, will be talking. He knows more about maritime than I'll ever learn, and other people as well. I'm from an inland county like Deputy Cahill, so I'm appealing to the goodwill of the House and the goodwill of your department and yourself, Minister, to try and accept this. It's not perfect, but it's a bill. It's as good as we can do. And I want to thank the Office of the OPLA here in this Parliamentary Legal Affair. They have given me great help in this bill. I've had other private members' bills who, when it came to moving them, they weren't fit for purpose. But they have helped me enormously. They've been very good. I have no names of the staff there. I met some of them this morning and thanked them. They have been very helpful, because we have limited resources as Oireachtas members. But we're all here to do our very best in this House and in politics and whatever. And I'm appealing that this will be taken by yourself, Minister, and your officials, and hope we'll have many interaction and engagement, and hopefully we'll have a fruitful outcome, and that, as I said, justice not only can be done, can be seen to be done. Very important. So I know, Minister, you were in the media for decades and writing, and you were campaigning for reform. So this is your chance in this piece of legislation. And I support you all the way, and I'm sure others will, to try and make a difference, a huge difference here in this area, and get rid of the quangos. You railed against them for decades. So this is a quango certainly, because if people are on a board that don't understand what they're meant to be dealing with, it's a pitiful situation, and I would hope that, and I believe you will, and I believe you've acted in good faith so far. And I said I praise the bridges as I go over, and I haven't, and that's the way I operate, and that's the way we'll go forward, I hope, in a meaningful and constructive fashion. And I look forward to engaging with you.
Thank you, Deputy.